Hello everyone and welcome back to Sarah's Spare Corner. If you're new to my channel, my name is Sarah. Sarah's Spare Corner is a channel I have created that focuses on my various interests interests such as art, obviously, and crafts. I occasionally do gaming, travel when I'm not poor, as well as sharing ideas, as I am a double honors in philosophy and archaeology. Today I will be showing you this art piece that I created for my final class of art in university. I also, minored in art as well, I should say that. And this has kind of been a project that was on my mind for months, and then I finally decided to go for it. The concept of this project was kind of the idea of showing things that people perceive to be true versus the reality of something. So just because you see it face value doesn't mean it is the essence of what is really there. So the first one I did is represents invisible disability. It's this one we're doing here. It's a little bit finicky. I'll kind of adjust it later, but I kind of had to hold the UV light while doing this. That's kind of the first rendition of this art piece, and then I was having a hard time seeing it because I had to hold the bar right up to the sheet and then I would see it, but it was just not really showing. So this is me on the next day that I came in. I think this was the next week, because I had a 5,200 word essay that I had to do, and then I had to do an essay for another paper, and then for another class, and then I had 3 presentations to prepare for, and there was just so much this week. I can't believe that I had the amount of assignments that I did in a period of 2 weeks. It was insane. And I am so glad that it is all done. Now, mind you, when I did this, I did it wrong. And I know that. Technically, when you're doing the symbol of medical, or the symbol of medicine, pardon me, of the snakes and the cane and the wings should actually be above the head of the snakes, I'm pretty sure. And I did that backwards, but I don't know. I decided to leave it. I mean, I do make changes on this piece, but I didn't change that. It also kind of looks a bit wonky. Don't worry, I do go in later to fix it. And then I was going to solve the problem of my blacklight issue, because I really couldn't paint the amount that I was going to paint, because I did several pieces while I'm holding the bar, it just wouldn't work. So I came up with this way to hang up the lights and also have a dark space, because the overhead fluorescent lights that the studio space had were also kind of blocking the access that I had to these fluorescents. So it was this was a good, I don't know, 40 minutes trying to set this up, I think. I mean, it doesn't seem that long, but we also are fast tracking right now. If I put the full footage at full period, I think it would have came to maybe 6 days of footage, because that's how long it kind of took. Non-stop art, right? When you're an artist. Also, to be fair, I pow down to get this all done. I have to keep myself entertained as well, so I'm watching a lot of James Turner YouTube, which I think I was watching his cottagecore series, or whatever that cottage package is called. I can't remember what it's called. Maybe you can tell me in the comments. But anyway, here you see me kind of going in with isopropyl alcohol, which when I first made this image, I don't know if I alluded to it or not, but I really wasn't happy with it. And I knew that there were so many things that were wrong with it, and also the snakes didn't really look like snakes, they kind of looked like blobs. There were just so many things that I really wished that I didn't do. And so I was kind of sitting on it, being I have to fix this, but I'm not sure how. And my classmate, Maya, shout out to Maya, she might poke her head in once in a while. Please go visit her Instagram, because she is also obviously an artist. She recommended that isopropyl alcohol might be able to remove or even nail polish might remove the mistakes. So that's kind of what I went in with. So this is the second image that I did, which was a image transfer of the Last Supper -1. And I added the image transfer to Dualar paper, which is what I used on the last project. It is a clear plastic-like paper, and because it's completely translucent, obviously there's a little bit more benefit there. So what I did is, because this was the idea of things that we see versus like what is actually there, it gave an opportunity to kind of create an image on one end of a paper and then kind of see it through the other side of the paper. And so I did 2 layers of the Last Supper on that one. And I think here, because I was letting everything dry, so what I did, because I cleaned everything up with the isopropyl alcohol, now I could go back in and add more layers of the invisible ink. That way it's a little bit more strong and you can actually see what's going on. So here, because I have lost the footage, I was showing you how I painted my hand. So what I did, because this is an inspiration of a photograph that I took like over 10 years ago. This painting was actually the first idea I had for these series of art pieces. So I took one side of my palm, I painted my palm as you previously saw, and then stuck it to the Dualar. And then I added layers to details to add to my palm. And then on top of, on the other side where you could see my palm, I added the invisible ink of bones. And that was, it kind of, I don't know, I really liked the way it looked. It was kind of funny though when I suggested this to my classmates. Some of them thought I was like thinking about x-rays, and that was not my thought at all. And then on the other side, like where I painted the palm, I painted on top of that the back of my hand. So this is what we're actually looking at, is the same side that I painted the palm, or painted my palm and then transferred it over. Now I'm painting my actual back of my hand on top of the palm. That way you can see one hand of my hand, like one side of my hand, and then if you go around on the other side of the clear Dualar, you'll see my palm and the UV bones. And then because this was based on a picture I took on Instagram about 10 years ago, I'm kind of just following along what I did there. And so now we are back at the Last Supper picture, which I used image transfer from Mod Podge. And then what you do is you paint the Mod Podge, which we kind of already saw, but, you know, kind of describing other stuff in the meantime. You would add the Mod Podge to the, like, piece of medium, whatever you're using. And then you would let it sit. And then as it dries, you would get a white or wet paper towel or rag. And then you dab it on there. And then you rub off the paper off of the medium you're using. And so then here what I'm doing is I'm just cleaning up the excess so that I can go in with invisible ink and then also add in Mod Podge to seal the Last Supper pieces. And then I think this is another day, because obviously this took several days. So here I am ready to go, you know. And I think this was also around Easter, so, you know, very appropriate that I am doing this art piece. And here we're looking at the hand, and I think, yeah, I'd probably go in and fix a bit because I also needed to adjust it a little bit more, and I knew that. I think I was like lying in bed and I was like, oh, I should have done this, which is kind of a nice thing about taking breaks when doing art, because then you can like go back in and, you know, fix what you knew, like, or what you were thinking about later, because that does tend to happen to me when I'm doing art, is I kind of think about it and then I go to bed and I'm like, oh, I don't like that, and then I completely change it the next day. So this is kind of me improving even more on the hand, because like I showed it to my my studio mate and she loved it, but she was when I did that, she was like, oh, it looks even better now. So here I am fixing the Last Supper. I'm just kind of edging around where the disciples are on one of the sides and just kind of cleaning up those spaces there, so then that way when I go in the invisible ink, that it's not going to mess up. Also, like, just to make sure that it actually, you know, looks pleasant. This side I didn't rub off the paper as much as I could have, so this side is actually permanently a little bit more lighter and faded than the other one, but is what it is. And if you're wondering if there's something deep there on that, no, it was just a mistake. But if you want to read into that, go ahead. And so then here I am going again with the isopropyl alcohol, just making sure that the area is nicely primed and clean. So when I go in the invisible ink, which here I believe is what we're doing next. So there we go. And now I am taking the cut out image of Jesus and I am outlining what I think Jesus might look like when I'm... Oh yeah, so what I did is I put Jesus on one side of the picture and then I drew him with the invisible ink, but obviously, like, because it's so small and I'm using a calligraphy pen, it's kind of a little bit messed up, but I thought it would be interesting to just leave the face of Jesus blank on this section. So I actually, that was the one piece of Jesus I didn't really draw in. Like every other piece I did kind of do something there, but that was kind of blank there. And you can kind of see it a little bit better here. And honestly, I really like the way this worked out because obviously there is meaning to this here. I did grow up religious, so there is also, you know, a little bit of a deeper meaning there for me. But yeah, and I guess here I'm just taking a nice break. You know what I mean? Okay, so this one, I have so many things to say about. I end up taking a picture of myself. That's right. So I took a picture of myself and then I was going to use that as the base. And as I start painting, I'm like, okay, yep, let's go with it. And then I realized I was adding way too many details. Like you'll see this in a second, which by the way, I'm not great at faces. So here I went onto the computer and erased my original image that I had that I wasn't going to use. Okay, so here we are, and I'm kind of showing you on the computer how I just took the picture of myself and then what I did to make the previous image. And then I kind of just roughly sketched it on my computer software to how I kind of want it to look, and then I placed it on top of that. So here we go. We're going to erase the painting that I did because I didn't like it, didn't want that. And then I do another one, which I also delete that, or delete. I completely redo that, which is this one here. So I take in this ruler stick, I don't know what you'd call it, and I measure out the shapes that I'm looking for, and I go in and I'm trying to shape out everything appropriately based on the image that I just did on the computer there. Because obviously I took a picture of myself and then I outlined that on the computer. But obviously it's different when you're trying to do it in real life. Like, we're not computers, right? So not everything's going to be perfect. And I tried to keep that in mind while I was doing this, but the proportions were getting a little bit out of hand. And you'll see what I mean in a second. Because like this doesn't seem so bad, right? But I think it was also possibly the angle I was going at it, because it seemed a little off and I wasn't sure what it was. I'm like, are my arms too long? Is my torso too short? Like, what's going on, you know? And once I add in the head of what I do, you'll see. Don't worry, it's coming though. So, but so far it looks okay, right? Like, it doesn't look that bad. And I'm trying to remember if I end up like, oh, I know what I do. So I think this might have been midday, because at this point, like, everything else is done. So this is my entire life right now, is this art project, at least for this time period. And I'm trying to go in the face, and I think I'm doing a good job. And I'm sectioning off everything, thinking based on the angle that I'm looking at it, that it's fitting the proportions. But I was looking at it at the wrong angle, and so because of that, the proportions were kind of looking off. And so I tried measuring the distance of the face by making lines on one side, and then basing the proportions on the other side based on these two lines where they meet in like the chin area. But that wasn't working out. Like, it's not wrong so far, but now it's just getting worse. Like, you're kind of seeing it, and I'm seeing it too. So I erased the face again, and then I'm like, okay, that's okay. We can, maybe it's just the hair, or maybe I need to follow where the lines are of the nose, the eyes, and keep it spaced on that. And because I am using a board that does have square, pardon me, grid based measurements, that it was a little bit easier for me to keep it in space, because then I could turn on the grid on my computer and measure it that way. But I was still not doing it right, and I wasn't sure what it was, and so I'm like, okay, maybe it's the hair. And so then I'm thinking it's okay, but I wasn't happy, so I'm like, you know what, I need to take a break. So I erase everything, and I think I almost scraped it off, and then I was like, no, I'm not scratching my dual R. So I clean it all off, and then I think, yeah, here we go. So I actually printed out the image from my computer in the appropriate size, and then I measured it out basically, and then printed out printer sheets of these things. And I know this is cheating, but I really needed to keep these measurements solid, so I'm not sorry. If that makes me a bad artist, then YOLO. But like, yeah. And this saved the image entirely, because I was really struggling with proportion. So as soon as I put it down, it made more sense when I finally started doing the lines, because I was like, oh, that's where I went wrong. So I used my ruler, and then I was like, nah, I'm just gonna go in and freehand all these lines, because I can follow lines. And also, in a way, it's going to, you know, have a personal touch if I'm not following the lines, because I am using printer sheet, right, to do this. So I thought it would just kind of be a little bit more personal to do it this way. I don't know if I have a reason why I used purple acrylic. I think I just wanted to use color acrylic for something, because all the other ones were mostly black. And so I was like, no, let's use purple, which I think is dioxide purple, acrylic purple. But yeah. And then these images are the invisible heads that you will be seeing shortly. But for now, we are working on the monster painting. And this one was kind of inspired by a nightmare I had, like the week that it was actually the week that I announced, or I spoke to my classmates about this piece, and I was like, oh, I want to do this particular piece. And I think the night before, I had a nightmare about this specific issue, and it haunted me like all day. Like, I was sitting with my classmates, I had just told them everything I want to do with this art project, and I just felt it like looming over me. It was an exhausting dream. I was miserable, and because I was already planning on doing this, it kind of just inspired me. You know what I mean? It's kind of interesting how, like, when you're working on something and then everything just kind of comes together in a short period of time and it just makes sense to you. I have no idea what I'm doing here. I think I was just looking up stuff. But anyway, so I use off to the side. Obviously, I'm listening to some music. Shout out to any chill wave creator on YouTube. You are the best. You save my art life. That and Legend of Zelda music in the background. But yeah, so you can see some chill wave going on. So this piece was kind of like, how do I describe this? It's kind of like the idea of the tensions that we have with ourselves often the times. Like I was thinking about how, like, you know, I could do what's good for myself, you know, but I'm almost like playing tug of war with myself. Like, I won't allow myself to be happy. Obviously, like, I am so much happier right now than when I did this, which obviously seems silly because this was 2 months ago, but I think it's because I'm finally out of school that I'm much happier now. But anyway, I think the inspiration kind of came from, like, how we can really hold ourselves back and, like, you know, play tug of war with ourselves. And so the idea that I originally had was that I'd have two hands on two different sheets, and then they both be pulling chains. And then my professor didn't really feel like it was much to do with the connection of other people, so I came up with the concept of adding a third hand, one that's like reaching down above the hand that seems like it's actually going to help us. And it looks like it's actually, you know, not a good hand. Like, it looks like, if you could tell a story about this, it would be like two good hands and one bad hand. But the one hand that you think is actually good for us, reaching down for us, if you will. is actually the one that is bad for us. And then the hand that looks like it's reaching to hurt us, it's actually reaching to do good for us. It's, you know, there's some lore, I guess, with that particular piece. I'm trying. Oh, this one was simple. So I just had the idea about our phones and how, you know, like it can just be a tool for us. It can just be useful for us, right? And it does what we need it to do, but we're the ones that, you know, make it more complicated. Okay, now this one, I think this one I think I did paint this myself. I did not use the printer sheets to do this one for me. I was a big girl and painted this myself. So here's the hands. And if you don't understand, this is actually, the two hands here are the sign language for okay. Something my professor pointed out, she was like, I noticed that you use hands a lot. And I'm like, yeah, I don't know why. Maybe it's just because I talk a lot with my hands, but I don't know how like all my artwork ended up using hands. But I guess like, you know, sometimes you get into a mood and like everything kind of informs each other. So all my art pieces just so happen to have hands in them. And I didn't even plan that out. And then here I am planning out my dream sequence. And I figured what I would do, because I was running out of time, I would do all the solid ones first, like do all the solid pieces, and then yeah, look at that ink spill, like yikes, right? I had a bit of an ink mess on this one. And yeah, but thankfully like isopropyl alcohol to the rescue. But yeah, I had like a lot of ink splatter. Even when I touched this and was moving it later, it kind of made a mess. So because we already did the solids, now we can go in with the invisible ink. So that was kind of like my plan, is that I would do like all the solid painting and then go with the invisible ink to make everything go faster. I was starting to feel a bit stressed because we only had a couple of days left. Even though I knew I had planned this out quite well, I was just still stressed. So here is one of the 3 invisible heads. The inspiration for this one, like the invisible heads, or like the geometry, if you will, of all the heads, kind of reminded me of like, have you ever played Star Fox like on the Super Nintendo? And then like, I think the first boss is like this geometric head that's shooting like geometric shapes at you, was kind of the inspiration for that. Or even like the shapes of like the movie Logan's Run from the 70s, like how there was just like this imagery of geometry. And I can't say if it's like directly connected, like these are essentially evil. It's not like that. I think it was just the style that I chose that kind of came out as I was doing this, and also like how I was creating this original, like, because I did the image originally on my computer. I think it also kind of informed from the way that it showed up on my computer as well. And then here, me hanging it up. And now we're going to go in with the hands, because we've already done the solid hands. So now we're going to do the chain. So I kind of came up with the idea that only one of the hands on the one of the hands out of the 3 would have a connection to chains, which is the one that looks like it's here to help, but it's actually here to destroy. And then here is a concept I came up with, which was that I would just pour invisible ink directly on the U-bow. So I used 2 different papers. This one's U-bow. It's the semi-translucent. And then the fully translucent, like these ones right here, this is dual R. This is dual R. Yeah. So I used dual R and U-bow. And U-bow U-bow showed the invisible ink way better than the dual R did, but I'm still pretty impressed with the way dual R kind of did everything. I don't know, I really love this image. It's probably, I wouldn't say it's my favorite, because I think the hand with the ring is my favorite, but I'd say this is like a close contender. It's just so interesting to look at. And I like the concept of it. when I was creating it, I was kind of thinking about how, like, I can look so stoic maybe on the outside, but really there's a lot of, like, anxiety and, like, stress going on in my mind. So this is the invisible ink. Obviously, I told you that the hands prior were, hand sign language for the word okay. And here, you can't see it, but I actually am writing the word okay, okay, okay over and over again within the hands themselves. So I finish on this one first. Okay, 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 okay. And then I move over to the other one where I also do the same. And I try to make sure that they're actually, you know, like if they're like on the same line. So then that way they're not, I don't know, like wrong. Like I want to make sure that the words, they line up well. So that's kind of how I did this one. This concept came up from the idea of when somebody tells you criticism. I have ADHD. ADHD, naturally, most people with ADHD are a lot more sensitive to criticism. And it's not an excuse. It is just a fact that people with ADHD are a lot more sensitive to criticism. But I also know that it's good for me sometimes. So I have to grit my teeth or grind my teeth in a way to keep my mouth shut. So I'm saying okay with that, like, because in the solid, it's just solid hands saying okay, but in the background I really am fighting it. I'm gritting my teeth. It's causing me stress. I'm you know, I really don't feel like I have to do better, but because I know it's probably better for me, I'm just doing it anyway. So like, it's kind of that feeling. It's an expression, right? It's not necessarily good or bad, like, because feelings can't be bad. So that's kind of the idea for that one. And then this one is my nightmare. So I used invisible ink to draw the monster on the bed, or the representation of a bed. So there's just me looking distressed in the regular paint, and someone can walk by and just think, oh, maybe she's just having anxiety, depression, but it's actually like connected to a nightmare I had. And so it's kind of like going back to that thing of like what people assume to be what you're actually going through versus like what you're actually dealing with. And it can be something simple as like a nightmare, right? Like there's so many things that go on with us that it can be stressful. So here I am making the I don't know, like title for my images, and I attach them with wire. There is my iPhone invisible ink, and I don't know at this point. Oh, I think I start hole punching everything. So I hole punch everything so that I can connect everything. So here's how I want it to look like when I'm hanging up, which I end up doing this. So I used string to connect everything, and then I made sure that each of the images had hole punches in them so that I could connect them by, say, like different materials such as yarn or chains or rope. And I did that with these. And I kind of, when I thought about putting up this art piece, like as I was going to share it, I was going to do it in a T formation. So the big ones you just saw would be like the smaller portion of the T, and then these pieces would be the longer body of the T, and they would all be hanging up. Oh my goodness, hey, I'm losing my voice. They would all be hanging up by like yarn or chains, such as I said, and they'll all be connected by these yarn chains and such. And I am talking to Maya. Again, shout out to Maya. Please check out her Instagram account. And yeah, so I'm kind of just like putting them up in my studio space just to see how they'll look. And then here I am taking down all the my goodness, taking down the black lights, because the next day, guess what I'm doing? I'm hanging it all back up. And if you're wondering, I got that on video, absolutely not. The reason why is because I had a bunch of people in my class that I wanted to respect their space. So here's how it looked inside the studio space of when I was hanging it up. And that's how they kind of all look together. We're going to walk around, and then here's the T portion. So we have the nightmare portion, we have the phone, and above it we have the title, which is the hidden concepts, and then we have the do better, okay. And then now we are going to see some images of what they look like in blacklight after I go back over. So here we have the back of the stoic picture. We have the back of my hand with the ring. Then here we have the one hand that's reaching out that actually has chains on it. And then we have the one hand that's actually trying to save the other hand. Here we have the Last Supper, an invisible Jesus. And then here we have the invisible disabilities. Now we're going to see a couple of images of all of the paintings together, but in the fluorescent light. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching this video. I really appreciate it. If you want to see more of my art videos, I definitely like to post my art videos and share my art with you. I definitely have, again, an Audrey Hepburn painting that I'm going to be showing. I also have a few other concepts of art that I haven't started yet, but I will definitely be showing. At some point, I also would like to stream them. But in the meantime, thank you so much for watching. I really appreciate it. Again, I am Sarah from Sarah's Spare Corner. On an occasion, I post videos about gaming, art, and travel, as well as sharing concepts. If you want to see more, feel free to subscribe to my channel. But for now, thank you so much for watching. I hope you have a lovely day. Bye now.